this is Pam Reese with Adventures in Aging, and I'm here again with my friend
Gary Vandenberg. Pam, it's great to be back. I want to start by thanking our sponsor, Stride Light. Stride Light provides quality diabetic shoes, inserts, foot orthotics, all lower extremity product needs. For over 20 years, their commitment to exceptional customer service and quality products has allowed them to earn the trust of their customers. Ask your doctor or podiatrist about stridelight.net. Stride Light. Thank you, Stride Light.
So, Gary, our topic today is going to be about relationships.
Oh, boy.
Yep. Be ready. Be ready.
Be ready. I can't wait for this. I didn't know I was looking for new relationships, but I guess I am right now.
Well, not everyone's looking, but everyone wants the perfect relationship.
Right. And over 50 years of age. I had an aunt and got married. I think she was in her early 80s. Can you believe that?
Yes.
Yeah, years ago. And I remember my father said, well, I hope they didn't sign up for a 30-year mortgage. We always laughed about that.
Right,
She was so happy. She was so much in love. And I've seen that with people of all ages, but definitely as you get older, there's probably some tricks to the trade here.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Do you believe that it's possible to find true love after 50 years old, whether it's in a new relationship or the rekindling of an old or current relationship?
Wow. Well, I definitely have seen both. I have seen people that are older that do get, they have that butterflies and all those wonderful things, and they are older. And I've also seen people renew their vows and commitments and those types of things. So I think those are wonderful things. Yes, it is possible.
Okay. Love to hear that because it absolutely is. And it's more prevalent to find true love the older that you get.
Oh, I wonder why that is. I'm sure we'll find out.
Yeah, well, just to give a sneak peek into why, as you get older, you start leaving all that baggage a little bit behind.
I think your baggage has grown up and moved away.
Right. Then there's that. The kids are no longer the big priority in life. So
they died off, or they left you, or you left them.
Right. It is time for you to focus on yourself.
That's great.
So true love, when talking about true love, that goes back to the days of the honeymoon, right? You find someone, you really like them, you find yourself falling in love. Every single thing that person does is cute, right?
Oh.
And we've all heard that.
Oh, I remember saying to somebody one time that we had the moon in common. Do you remember me saying that on an earlier podcast?
The moon
we even have the
common.
moon. We even have the moon in common. So,
oh my gosh.
But I think part of that, you have to be honest about who you are, right? So, when you're putting your best foot forward at the beginning of any relationship, you're charming, right? It's because you don't know them. That's what makes it so charming, right?
Well, you're trying to impress.
Yeah. And so, I think as you get older, to be honest with yourself, you don't need to, over exaggerate how wonderful you are. Just be yourself is probably, a tip that's a good suggestion along the way. And if you don't like doing something, if you don't like riding bicycles or hiking or all those things, why play along like you do? And it's not really they're going to catch up at some point, right?
So
and find out that
on those dating websites, and when people describe their likes and what their hobbies are, there are millions of people that put what they think other people would like.
I like
marketing. To stroll on right. No, it's marketing to a person to touch their hearts, but not necessarily your own. But how many times would people actually put, you know what? I really don't like doing much. I like just sitting around. Every once in a while we'll talk, but please don't talk to me all the time.
Yes. I like sitting on the couch watching TV and eating snacks. That's my forte. Yeah, that's not going to get you many dates, I'm sure, on those sites.
So in talking about dating, which is never easy, even when you're young, as you grow older, it takes on new rules. It takes on new objectives. And people, when they're older, they've already lived through those long-term relationships and marriages and children, divorces and deaths. And now they're smarter. and they're more
Oh, yeah.
direct because of it. And so people tend to have more in mind of what they want out of their partner the older that you get.
Yeah, I agree. I think people, it goes back to being honest, but, I don't think people want to invest any time in something that's not going to go anywhere, right? As far as that goes.
Right, but you're told to don't discount. Do your homework.
Oh, yeah. But when you stop and think about it, I think sometimes your gut is telling you something along the way, right?
Oh,
Your
my
gut
gosh.
feeling.
Yes, those gut feelings that say to you, I'm not ready for this. Oh, my gosh, there's something about this person I don't feel right about, or I'm not feeling good about where they took me, or I don't feel good about how they're speaking about their past. Maybe their values aren't yours.
Oh, yeah. Little red flags come up. I always think back when I was much younger, but I remember meeting somebody one time, and for some reason they showed great interest in me, which was very shocking to me.
Oh, for goodness. The one out of two people in life.
Pretty much. I married the other one.
Oh,
yeah.
Gary.
And I remember this person, they said, well, let's meet at a shopping center instead of picking her up at her home. The red flags start going off. Then, this and that. Well, it just, there's like 4 or 5 things that ended up saying, well, at the end of it, I didn't realize she was kind of still married. She was kind of had a kid, kind of put her husband in jail, kind of, there's a lot of problems here going on. And
now,
so
in looking back, you saw the red flags, right?
All the red flags were bright and flaring from day one. Yes, that's for sure. So,
yeah, don't let your heart get ahead of you, right? Don't let your heart take you down a path that you're not prepared to go down. So, just some ideas, just some things that people should think about when they're one to enter into a new relationship. And so you want to make sure that you focus on yourself. So, we all have daydreams about getting experiences that make us tingle, make us heart pound, give us butterflies. We all remember those feelings. But you also want to ensure that the person that you're with is also feeling those things as well.
Right.
Right?
Yes. And absolutely. And I think sometimes though people begin by thinking, I call it deal breakers. You know what I mean? It's like everything's going fine, but I hope they don't end up disappointing me in some weird way, right? Because deal breakers can be anymore these days. It's politics. It can be religion. It could be socioeconomic things and the roles that you have. Those types of things can be a deal breaker. We don't want that to be something that comes up right away, right?
Oh, no. And always remember that your happiness is the most important. And never, ever sacrifice what's important to you for someone else. They should, maybe perhaps that other person isn't as enamored with your hobbies or has ever done them, nor you have done what's interesting to them. But the key for the successful relationship is to care enough to explore those areas that you're unfamiliar with.
Oh, yeah. That's what's exciting, trying something new and trying something different. So I think sometimes you do have to take that inventory of yourself and probably the inventory of the other person too, saying, what is it that we have in common and continue to grow those things. But, we all come from somewhere different. So we have our own experiences. I'm one that tends to write down notes and take notes. And those kind of things.
Would you be pulling out the notebook on the first date?
Well, I'd probably need to make a note of what doesn't work. How's that sound? More than the things that do work, I guess.
Oh, so, and right before dinner, let me talk to you about what's not working.
Avoid this or that. Well, some people hit it off right away, don't they? And some people don't. So it's kind of a slow thing. But
some people have a slow beginning. So never discount that. Unless there's something glaring, as we talked about, something in your gut that says, no, this person is not at all for me. But maybe there is. If you have that maybe, stick it out, see where it goes. You will either be surprised that person turns out to be more of what you're looking for than you think, or they could absolutely be the wrong person for you.
Right.
And in that case, you need to get away.
Right. I have a good friend, and several years ago, again, he was over 50, and he decides to do that speed dating. Do you remember speed dating?
Oh my gosh, I think it's still prevalent. Well,
Oh
maybe
yeah,
not since COVID, but
and so it's something where they all go to some hotel somewhere, and everyone's at different tables, and every like 5 minutes you switch tables, right? And I'll never forget him sharing his stories where, some people would come by and they wouldn't hit it off at all. You'd look at each other going, I guess we only got 4 minutes left to deal with each other until the next table.
Because you wish you only had like maybe 5 seconds so you could move on.
Oh yeah, and then other ones, you show great interest in, and then you've got to mark down at the end who you'd be interested in seeing, and if they would contact you or something like that. And I think the person ended up going out on the date, but I think the person again, said they were interested in something like bicycle riding when they really weren't.
That's what I mean. Don't make up stories because you think someone else will like it.
Yeah, and so that became an issue there, but. I think that's, being upfront about things is always important, and, being appreciative. I think one of the things I tend to always do in any relationship is always use a lot of please and thank yous just to kind of be polite.
Oh,
right?
To have manners.
Yeah, manners go a long way.
Manners go a long way.
If somebody's going to invest time in somebody else, they might as well, hang around with somebody that's not a bore. Is it a bore? Is that the name that they would often say?
Oh, yeah, they're boring. Yeah.
Or boorish.
Boorish.
I think so. Somebody that's like that.
Another thing that goes along with that is it's much easier early on in the relationship to speak up if something bothers you versus waiting until your emotions become more intertwined. Right?
Oh, okay.
So in the beginning, if you talk about something that bothers you, you're not so emotionally connected that you can handle it. You have a better chance of handling criticism. But as time goes on and you become more entangled in each other's lives and in each other's emotions, now you might spark a bad emotion that the other person is taking in a critical way versus a productive way.
But if there's something that strikes you right away with anybody, I think, sometimes a small thing becomes a big thing though, right? If somebody chews with their mouth open, do you know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Makes noises or does
weird noises.
Weird things. Eventually, if that's bothering you day one, that's probably going to bother you at day 1,000. You know what I mean?
But think about those enamored things. So some people find those characteristics adoring. It's so cute. It's cute when they snore. It's cute when they chew with their mouth open. It's cute when they chew on ice cubes. And 6 months from then, that's not cute.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying is I think that goes back to your gut feeling, but also, whether it bothers you or not. Do you know what I mean? Some people, things they just live with, right? I must say they must trade off at some point. Would you agree with that?
I do. And then I have to question, is it okay to just live with things that bother you, or is just some differences and some bothersomes in life are different from person to person? We don't the same things don't bother me that would bother you. Correct?
No, that's for sure. I was just talking with a resident. I'm over here in a nursing home these days, and he was saying something about the food. And I said, "Oh, how is the food?" He said, "Actually, the food is really good here." And he goes, you always seem so happy, Gary. And I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, I can tell you the secret to that. He goes, "What's that?" I said, "Low expectations." It was just so funny.
So go into a relationship with low expectations.
If you have low expectations, you know what? You'll probably be happy. All right. Isn't that funny how that goes? And people, I think, sometimes have really high expectations. They're looking for Mr. Right or Miss Right or whatever she might be. And, Mr. Perfect better show up or else I'm, in the state in the miserable life I am. So,
well, as the older you get, some things that were really important to you in a partner have changed now. You might have been someone that only wanted to be with a brunette, someone attractive, someone who worked out, and now you're looking for a person that is kind, that's nice, that is put together maybe in different ways.
Right.
Is there a compatible relationship ready to form with the person that doesn't look exactly like the person you would have been with 30 years ago.
Right. Well, for our listeners, Pam and I have been in nursing homes and senior living many, many years, right?
Right.
And the great thing about being a man is the ratio is like, there's 5 women for every man, right?
And every woman in that nursing home wants you.
So it's something for me, I guess, to look forward to in 30 years, I guess, that the ratio there. So
when those expectations are lowered.
I may not have a memory. I may not be able to walk or anything, but,
yeah.
Passion is awaiting right down the road.
It is always waiting around the corner.
And I've seen it, which is quite surprising how that does happen to people that, they hit up with somebody there at their dining room table or during a social thing. Next thing you know, they're talking. Next thing you know, they seem to be hanging out together a lot. So
I love that. One of the things that is always an interference in a new relationship is comparing that person to your ex-partner, your ex-wife, your ex-husband, and you're always looking for a quality that you truly loved, that was or comfortable. And
I wonder why that is. But nobody wants to hear about that stuff, though. Do they?
No.
But I'm sure people do that. They probably say, I was in a bad situation or I was in a great situation, and and you're trying to compete against something that you can't change and you can't go back and fix or unfix, right?
Well, one of the big advice categories here is don't embellish your story. Whether it was really a great embellishment or a really bad embellishment. As soon as you start hearing a huge story, I would be thinking, is this really what I want to hear? Or you start to form judgment, right? Is this part of this person's personality? But the rule of thumb here is to look at it as a new relationship, nothing in common, nothing comparable. Even though as humans, it's hard for us to do, right?
Right. Yeah, I would say you're always going to have to compare it to something. But, when you think about it, I think, again, the more you're upfront with somebody, the more you're honest with somebody, the more you're just being yourself. I think that's, as I get older, I think, why don't I just be myself? You know what I mean? Doesn't that make more sense than trying to be something you're not?
Yes, and that goes along with sharing yourself in a meaningful way that makes you happy. It gets exhausting if you're constantly trying to be something you're not, or present yourself in interests that really aren't interesting to you. And so you want to be upfront, you want to be honest, and not that we don't find new interest, right? I mean, it is possible.
Oh, yeah. But, again, I guess you call it don't get pushed around now. Don't you think sometimes you run that risk of somebody kind of, I'm worried to bring up something because I don't want to risk this relationship, or, you're in a situation where, you're kind of going along with it just because you're going along with it. So, or
you're going along with it because you think this is the only person. This is the only person that may be interested in me in life. Don't screw it up. But people are going to be much happier when they're within those happy, positive relationships. So never settle.
I often think my father, again, when I was crushed after some breakup when I was in high school, and saying, "Oh, there's going to be another bus, right? There's always another bus coming that before. Always another bus coming down the road." Well, he's probably right. The more I'm thinking about it as I get older, there is probably another bus coming down the road. It may be a while, but there might be another bus here for anyone that's in that situation. But what if you have like kids involved? What do they have to say about this, man? What's your thoughts?
So children are tricky, right? It's a tricky situation, and a lot of advice says don't even introduce to your children in the early stages. That you should wait and see where this relationship is going to go. Now, some parents become very excited, or they become very anxious, thinking that their children will totally dislike their new interest, their new relationship, be mean to them, or say mean things to you in front of them. But the rule of thumb is to be confident about that relationship before you share it with others.
Okay.
Because the worst thing in the world is, oh my gosh, I met the love of my life. I'm going to bring him over. The guy comes over, or the lady comes over, meets the kids. Let's say they're 10-year-olds, which is tricky when they're a lot younger. And what if those kids develop a relationship? What if they really do begin to like that person, and then something happens personally between the mom or the dad and that person, and now all of a sudden they don't come around anymore? Now you're back to explaining a breakup or the absence of that person they were developing a relationship with. But also, when you have adult children, sometimes adult children are so used to seeing mom or dad with who they were always with, or by themselves, and they feel there's somewhat of that they're letting their spouse down, or their mom or dads that are no longer around down. And so you want to make sure that you're speaking to them about your intentions of maybe dating, that you're speaking to them about things that you would like to change in your life, and maybe that involves a new relationship, and you start getting their input into it. But keep in mind, everyone, that you're an adult, and not everyone's going to love everyone you love, but it's certainly going to make life easier when people can get along and be accepting.
Right. Well, I mean, when it comes to adult children, I'm sure they have their lives too. So they want to balance those things all together and see that's going on with them. Yeah. So, I think when it comes to, again, being upfront for what you're looking for, being more relaxed as much as you can possibly be, and, asking questions and kind of just, probing around to make sure that you get something in common and something of interest, I think is always a good idea there. I'm sure many times, I think back to these people up in these retirement centers and things like that, things start with just friendships. And, it's always interesting how I'm in charge of my class reunion every 10 years, right? We get back together again, and I'm always thinking, boy, it's kind of weird that, people, that some of them did get married or some of them have relationships. But I always wonder, what happens when somebody's spouses pass away, if everyone in our class is ever going to kind of kindle that relationship with somebody from 20, 30, 40 years ago. Isn't that wild to think about that?
Yeah, so my mom did.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yes, she really did. Who knew? So after my dad passed away, about 6 years later, my mom's brother reached out to my mom and said, hey, he ran into this guy my mom dated in high school, and he asked about you. And my mom was as flattered as can be, right? Because she actually dated this guy throughout her whole high school. And so, long story short, they exchanged numbers through my mom's brother, started talking daily, started talking 3 times a day, started to rekindle. Next thing you know, my mom is traveling to West Virginia to go stay with him. He's traveling to Ohio to stay with my mom. And I couldn't have been more thrilled for my mom in that relationship. It was funny. It was cute. I saw my mom, buying new clothes and dressing up and getting her hair done again. And she felt good.
Now, how old do you think she was? Was she 60 years old, or was
No, so Mom, I bet when she rekindled that relationship, I'll bet she was around 72, 73.
Well, good for her. Good for her.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good stuff there.
It is.
But sometimes people just want a companion, though, don't they? I've seen certain people that in church, I've seen people that I know are older. There was a couple I know that was a widows, and they ended up just being companions. How's that sound? They weren't really more than that.
So it's okay if you want just a companion, as long as the person that you're choosing as that companion also just wants a companion. Because the worst thing in the world is to start a relationship with someone who wants a lot more. But it's okay to have that companion to go out to dinner with, see movies with, hang out with. But you want to make sure that you're upfront about your intention.
Right. Setting boundaries, along the way here. I remember when I was in high school, we had a family, a widow, friend of our family, and she was starting to date. And boy, I don't know why she was sharing the information. I think I was like 18 years old. She was telling me about her dates. And I'm like, but she was saying how, she had to set these boundaries with these men, right away because they were definitely too aggressive or something.
Oh my gosh. No kissing on the first date.
I have no idea. All I remember is saying, "Oh my gosh, why am I even hearing this?" But but isn't that funny? Setting boundaries is so important to for your own self-esteem, your own self-worth, and those types of things.
Yes, and we live our whole life looking at older people or the elderly, and we can't even imagine that those people at their ages would be having intimate or physical relationships. And the truth is, they never, ever lose that desire.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. So you got that for your whole life, huh? That's something that.
Well, as long as it's, you might need a little help down the road, but actually, you don't lose that. And the worst thing in the world for someone who's older who wants to date is not feeling confident about their bodies. They've gained weight, they have stretch marks, they don't look the way they used to. And at the end of the day, that person you're interested in probably has the same issues.
And they probably don't care. So,
that's right. You care less the older you get.
Well, I would say, when it comes to relationships, obviously having confidence in what you bring to the table makes all the difference. And being comfortable with yourself and who you're hanging out with, again, makes a difference. But, I would say, I find myself, as we're doing these podcasts, that I've been married almost 40 years. So I guess it's hard for me to relate to some of this, Pam, because I don't think I'm looking for any change in the near future.
No,
I'm sure you're not either.
Of course not. Of course not. But we always have room to be better. We have room to be better listeners, to be better communicators, to put our own selfishness aside and live a life that's more mutually happy. What makes one happy doesn't always make the other, but if you can find your common ground and you together move forward in exploring each other's interest and communication styles, then that is just a better relationship down the road.
Oh yeah, nobody wants to take their journey, their adventure in aging by themselves, right? So whether it's friends or companions or lovers, whatever it might be, I hope our listeners hear that and embrace that and say, and I also believe in fate. Things happen to people. You get situations that you didn't expect to happen. Like I said, I've been around the nursing homes, retirement centers, and these people didn't know each other for 80 years. And now they're sitting at a table talking and playing games, and next thing you know, they're hitting it off.
Yes.
And so there must be a degree of fate that must happen in all of these relationships.
If you're open to it, it will happen more readily. And like you said, if you're not really out looking for that, you'd be surprised of the relationships that you can form, whether they're just companionship relationships or they're deeper than that. And then just one last thing is about technology. People will say, well, how do I meet? How do I meet someone when I'm 60 years old, 70 years old? How do I meet them? Well, there are many, many dating websites for singles, for people in their 50s, their 60s. They'll even be delineated out to the age group. But what's really interesting is if you're over 50 and you use technology for the relationship, the person that's older tends to care more about the content delivered in that medium versus the social medium that's being used. Whereas younger people are so used to connecting through social media that meeting someone in real life is kind of scary and kind of foreign to them. The older person can think back to, that's the only way you met people, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so many times it was, again, through other people too. I think about how many people I've known that ended up with their spouse or their significant other because of a friend introduced them along the way, or because they were in a club or a setting or a situation where they happened to interact with each other and hit it off from there.
So to end this, the one thing about true love, we started with true love, we're going to end with true love. There was a study done of why people over 50 decide they would like to truly get married and not just have a relationship without commitment. And the number one reason, 88% of the people polled said true love is the reason why they would get remarried. 81% say making a lifelong commitment. Wonder why, right? Or we'll move on. 76% said for companionship. 30% said a relationship recognized in a religious ceremony. So maybe they didn't have that before. 28% said financial stability. And 23% said for legal rights and benefits.
There you go. I love it.
Sometimes money talks louder. So at the end of the day, Gary, true love is for all.
There you go.
And it's possible. Never give up. If you're searching for that special person in life, chances are you will find them. You just gotta set straight in your head what it is you're looking for. So with that said, Gary, we were wrapping up the relationship talk today.
Thank you. Have
All
a good
right,
day.
everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Please share and subscribe. See you next time.